Well, I'm here with the person I've known longest in my life, other than anybody in my family. Mike and I met, this is Mike Mullins, we met when we were teenagers, and in a minute we'll try to figure out like when that was and exactly how
long ago that was.
We'll get to that in a second, but I wanted to, when did you start playing the guitar?
I started playing when I got my first guitar when I was 10. I had an interest in it since I was 9. You know, we'd grown up around the house listening to a lot of the folk boom music. Remember the
Kingston Trio and stuff?
Yes, what Martin Mull refers to as the great folk music scare of the 1960s.
Yeah.
Yes, Kingston Trio, Limelighters, Peter, Paul and Mary. You know,
Joan Baez, Bob Dylan.
Exactly, yeah. And some Alan Sherman records.
I had those too. I can't believe it.
Yeah, My Son the Folk Singer. And,
yeah.
But
a little mud.
Yeah. So I kind of had this kind of ringing around in my head, the sound of acoustic guitars, but I didn't really have an interest in pursuing it. And then I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, and suddenly I went, "Whoa! You know, I
better get serious about this.
I want to play the guitar." And my parents kind of they had a bad experience with my brother playing the trumpet. And so, you know, so they got him a trumpet, and he would sit there in his room, driving everyone nuts.
Yeah, painful.
It was this flatulent sound, sort of emanating from the inner sanctum. And anyway, the guitar, they figured, okay, well, what harm can he do with the guitar? So, yeah, I was 10, and I just started taking Alfred's Basic Guitar Method.
So you're taking lessons like once a week? You go take from a teacher to
yeah,
store?
I was taking lessons from a guy named George Long, who ran a little music store in Burlingame, California, and he was a great teacher, and he was from Oklahoma, and he smoked like a chimney, and coughed all the time. Eventually, unfortunately, about 6 months after I started taking lessons with him, he became in such poor health he had to give up his store.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately, that was the end of my learning to really read music, and I started playing by ear after that. I didn't have any teachers.
So you at least had enough of a foundation, though, to be able to take it a step further and be able to figure stuff out. You knew that, okay, this note's higher than this one, or whatever, and then you could figure out how to play melody or some chords and stuff.
I had other guitar teachers, but none of them really stuck, and I basically learned, I'd get chord books and stuff, but I wasn't very good at reading, but I mostly played by ear. I would just listen to records and try and learn what was on there, and I developed an ear, and in a way it's been kind of a double-edged sword, because I sort of lost the thread of, I took the path of least resistance. From there I did not, as you did, you continued to build on your knowledge of music theory and read music.
Well, I was always fascinated by that. I mean, it just sucked me in. The whole, I've always been fascinated by math and puzzles and logic.
Yeah.
So deciphering music to me was just like was a big old puzzle to solve.
That's a tremendous tool to have in your arsenal, and I wish I had kind of gone that way, but I was kind of, Neil kind of did it right, and I took the lazy guy's way, and here we are. We've been, and then we met.
Well, that was where I was going next. So you were, I definitely met you at summer camp at Echo Mountain Ranch, which was a camp for teenagers, or I was trying to figure out, even the first year I was there, you'd been there you'd been there longer than I had.
I went there when I was 10 years old the first time, or 9. My sister was a counselor, my brother was a dishwasher, and yes, I was 9, it was about 1964, and I continued to go every year, but I think we met in about 69.
I think, I was trying to figure out the first year I was there, it may have been 69 or may have been 68, because I distinctly remember. Oh, maybe.
I was only there in 68. I was only there 2 weeks, and it was my shortest. In 69, I was there the whole summer. My parents got rid of me for the whole summer, sent me there for 8 weeks.
You had the 8-week session, huh? So if you were there only for 2 in 68, that would have been the last session, like the 2-week one that was the teen one. And I think that I may have been there that year in not that session, in the earlier session.
I think you were in an earlier one. We missed each other that year. But
so 69, I do remember 69 because I was just trying to remember this morning what I could remember about years I went to camp. I remember watching the moon landing at camp.
Yes.
So that was like my first camp memory. Now that may not have been the first year I was there, but I do remember that. I could at least pin down, okay, summer of 69, I was at camp.
They brought that little black and white TV out
into
the dining hall.
Yeah,
that was the only time I can ever recall seeing a television there.
At camp, I know. It was like they let everybody watch Neil Armstrong.
Yeah, they set it up like next to the big Jackson Fastspray dishwasher.
Yeah.
And he was just sitting on the counter and going, yes, that was...
We were very... Mike and I were there as dishwashers. We couldn't afford the full rate, so we were in there for like half price as long as we washed dishes after every meal. So that was the other thing. We got to know each other.
Plus, my dad thought it would be build my character to do menial labor for extended periods.
Yeah, so.
But it wasn't really that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're the dishwasher.
so I distinctly remember there was this music contingent, kind of, and I can't remember. I mean, Chris Clark was the other one. I think that was his name.
Chris Clark was the guy who,
he was like,
he was
he
an
the same
older
age as you?
guy.
He was a little older than you, right?
Yes, well, yeah, he was a couple years older than
Okay.
me, and he had I think he had a Gretsch acoustic guitar,
Okay.
and he knew lots of songs, and he was kind of, he knew a lot of songs I wanted to learn.
Yeah, so I remember it was the first time I heard songs like For What It's Worth.
And he was a
stuff
better
like
guitar player than I was at the time. He'd been playing a little longer, and he was this
Yeah.
older guy whose voice had actually changed and could sing.
He could say, yeah.
And so yeah, he was there, and
Yeah.
we kind of hung out with him.
Yeah.
And he was willing to put up with us.
Yeah, it was, and I definitely remember, I was a couple of years younger than all of you guys, and but it didn't seem like it took long to sort of become musical buddies, even though there was a little bit of an age difference. And so.
Yeah, well, I never remember being aware of the age difference. I just remember hearing you play, and you were doing fingerstyle stuff already, and to me that was fascinating. Eventually, I became frustrated with fingerstyle for myself. It seemed like I was always stuck in one gear. I could do the James Taylor thing, but as far as like when you started playing all the Bach stuff and thing, I was thinking, you know what? And then I heard bluegrass and wanted to start learning how to play mandolin too. But yeah, I remember you playing like some tune called Shades of Funk. It was like
Man, that's on the site now. I have a lesson up on Shades of Funk because it was like the first finger picking song I learned.
Yeah.
And I was always messing around with songs I wanted to learn were like Blackbird, and it seemed like Chris or you might have had a little bit of a handle on what was going on with Blackbird.
I learned it actually in an open tuning. I can't remember it now, which wasn't the way it was played on the record.
But it's easy in an open G tuning.
Yeah, I think that's how I learned it,
Yeah.
and I wanted to learn that stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember you playing that Shades of Funk and had that alternating bass line. And when I try and do it, I'd somehow always get it turned around, and then it would I'd just go it would just sort of grind to a halt. But I was thinking, man, this guy can really play.
I remember trying to work out stuff like Angie. I might have heard either you or Chris messing with Angie as well too.
I can sort of do Angie.
And I remember just thinking that is really cool and getting the whole keeping that kind of bass thing going.
Yeah.
And you know what else was just out at the time that was knocking me out was Classical Gas. I remember thinking I got to learn how to play that someday, or something, and so that was a huge influence on me that occurred right around that same time.
Actually, I was when the Cash Valley Drifters was recording the second CD we did. It was about the late '90s. It was in the San Fernando Valley. This guy named Rick Kuna recorded us at his little home studio, and this older guy shows up one day, and he's just hanging out and listening. He's like in the booth, and then we come out of the booth after doing something, and Rick goes, "I'd like you to meet Mason Williams." I guess they're buddies from somewhere.
Wow.
Rick knew all these people down there, and he was like, "Oh God, I'm like they're playing guitar, and Mason Williams is out here." Oh my God,
Yeah.
But he was nice, and he was complimentary and stuff.
Yeah.
And plus, I wasn't trying to do fingerstyle stuff, so
I had some really neat correspondence with him a couple of years ago.
Really? That's great.
He sent me a copy of his own book that has all of his own stuff in it, and I'd sent him some of my albums. I was actually trying to coerce him into coming down here and doing a concert with me. Was sort of my so I contacted him. I let him know what I was doing these shows at Montalvo. And stuff. He lives in Eugene, Oregon.
Oh, he does.
And I sent him my album, so he at least knew a little bit about what I did. And I heard back from him a few months ago. He says he was really complimentary of the albums. It was really neat because he said, "Man, Neil, I love listening to your stuff. It's so cool," and things like that. So
wonderful.
It was kind of neat to get the nod from because I really look at Classical Gas as the greatest guitar piece ever written for a couple reasons. I mean, there are a lot of others, but from a pop culture point of view, it's mainstream. Everybody's heard it. Well, everybody over 40.
I loved it. Everybody. I mean, I'd wait for it to come on the radio. I didn't have the record, but I just would, every time it came on, I'd turn up the volume and I tried to learn how to play it too, and I just never got much past the first couple of measures.
It's tricky.
It's harder than it sounds.
It is because it's not a normal finger picking piece. It's more of a classical guitar piece. It's got some symmetry going on in various places, but it's it's kind of just a free-form
Yeah,
composition
yeah.
that is stunning.
And I think I saw him do it on the Smothers Brothers show or something.
Yeah.
The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, if anybody's older than...
Yeah.
well,
No, because he
our
was a
age.
writer on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
with
where-
Steve Martin and those guys. You know,
Steve Martin has a brand new banjo record out.
yeah, it sounds like he's getting serious about his music or
Yeah,
something.
he's decided to play banjo music for a living until his money's all gone.
Yeah, yeah. So.